Are you going to be patient? All right, today we're going to take a look at how to properly measure your dog for a Sylmar vest. Most important measurement on getting the proper fit on a Sylmar vest is going to be the chest girth. What we're looking for is the deepest part of the chest, and so we're going to measure right around in this area behind the front legs. So I've got a seamstress measure here. So 28.5, 29 is where Bull's going to fall. Let's take a look at where that's going to put him on our measuring chart. All right, if you don't have a seamstress tape and you want to get an accurate measurement, all you need is a leash. Go around the chest, get that measurement. All right, so I've got this right here. Then take your tape measure, and it's 29 inches. Sylmar medium is going to be a 27 to a 31 girth, so he falls in between that. So I'm going to start with a medium vest and show you how that fits. Now, this is the thing I think that throws some people off. If you look at Bull, I don't think of him as being a medium-sized dog. My brain wants him to be a large, but because I checked the measurement on the girth, and that's the important measurement, I'm going to look at a medium on him. So let's try a medium on him and see what it looks like. How does that smell? Oh, does it smell good? Put his legs through the leg holes. Now, I am just going to do this straight out of the package. I'm not going to change anything on the straps. This is a medium vest, and you can see here that that's kind of baggy on him. But we've got an enormous amount of play in the sizing of these, and so we're going to be able to tighten this up a little bit, because I would not want it to be this baggy on him. All right, so that's kind of what I'm looking for. See right there? I don't want it really, really tight on him, but I don't want it hanging down loose. I'd also like for him, he's a male dog, I'd like for him to be able to urinate without going all over his vest. Here and here, that's about perfect. And so, back up a little bit, son. All right, so now we want to get, this is going to need just a little bit of tightening, but not a lot. That's about what I'm looking for. I don't want it super, super tight on him because I don't want to restrict his movement. I also want to make sure that we're not going to get any sort of irritation or rubbing, around the leg holes. And I expect after he's run in it a little bit, I'm going to, make some adjustments to it to get it a little bit more dialed in. You really want to spend a little time in the yard with these before you do it in the field. And, you want to let your dog get used to it. Bull's done this before, and he's pretty comfortable with it. But, you don't want to do this, when you're trying to hunt. You want to get this done at the house. Let them get used to it. Most of the dogs that wear Sylmar vests all the time, the second you get the vest out, they just, they go crazy because they know what you're going to do. And so it's usually pretty easy to get them on them after they've done it a couple of times. Now, you don't want to do this immediately. In this vest, we've got an enormous amount of extra here. Now, you can leave that, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. It'll flap around, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But once you've sized it out the way you want it, you can come in, cut this, and then take a lighter and very carefully burn the edge of the nylon so it'll seal it. Don't do that initially. Make sure that you get your sizing right. If you screw up and you cut it too short, then you got a problem. Right, don't cut it all the way up here to the edge. Give yourself, a couple of inches, just so you have some variation in there if you get another dog, or if you have multiple dogs that you're using the same vest on. But that's about it. I don't think of Bull as being a medium dog, but this is a medium Sylmar. Most important measurement is the actual biggest part of the chest. That's where you figure out how to get the right size Sylmar vest for your dog. Come on. So let's measure Cowboy for Sylmar vest. So once again, girth measurement. Deepest part of the chest is what we're looking for here. So 25 is going to put Cowboy in the middle of small. All right, now that's a little tight, so I'm going to loosen. Once again, there's a fine line between too tight and not quite tight enough. So this is a small, and that's about what I'm looking for. Once again, chest protection, chest and stomach protection, visibility on the sides, and then catch you from hitting the barbed wire fence. Peggy Sue is about a 10-month-old English pointer, and we're going to measure her girth. Oh, a little bigger chested than I would have guessed. It's about a 25. Let's try small. Now, Peggy Sue has never had a vest on before, so you're going to get some of this. So this is a small. I probably want to tighten that up just a smidge right there, but I'm pretty happy with that. So small it is for you, kid. We'll throw an extra small on her. You know, I could get it on her because we've got enough adjustments there that I can probably pull it off. But that's not really what I'm looking for.
You put a medium on so you see that?
Medium's gigantic. But it's really not what we're looking for. Let's see, can I get it on her? Whoa. All right, and so this one is sized down drastically. And, you know, yeah, so way too big. Way too big. So small it is for you, kid. All right. Most of my bird dogs, you know, are wearing smalls and mediums, but Dakota is a little bigger. So she weighs 85 pounds, and we're going to see where she fits in on her girth measurement and put her in a large vest, looks like. She's coming in at about 33, which is going to put us in the middle of a large vest. So let's try a large on her. Okay. Now the larges are a good bit longer, you know, than the mediums, and so if you've got a dog that falls in between a medium and a large, you've also got to kind of factor in the distance from the chest to the hip. What's nice about this combination here is it's going to give her a lot of visibility, be easy to see her. We're out in the field. We walk a good bit with her in the winter, and so it's not a bad idea to have, you know, high visibility. It'll protect her, but no question that she's not a wolf. All right, it's a good girl.
You want to put a medium on her?
This is Moose. This is 8. This will be 8. So, Moose is similarly built to Bull, but he's a little thicker. Ooh, he's bigger chested too. So about 31 on a chest measurement, which puts him at the bottom of a large. Might get away with a medium, but it's gonna, nope. So he falls on the small end of a large. And I can kind of feel it right now going, it's gonna be close. So, you know, I can probably get this to where it'll fit him, but he's going to be peeing all over himself, and you know it's going to be super tight. So where did he fall out? 31, which is the top of a medium. A medium compared to a large, and this is maybe another measurement we need to add in because, you know, I'd have to check the, you know, but it's 2 inches, I'd say, probably more. All right, and I don't know if you've seen what I've done here, but by unlooping this from the bar here, you can tighten it up a little easier. Now you want to make sure you put it back in, because if not, it'll fall off. All right, so he fell on the top end of the medium, but the large was just way too long for him. And same thing here, you're not going to get quite as much coverage across the top, but that's not what I'm looking for in one of these vests. I'm looking for, you know, I'm looking for chest protection, I'm looking for protection underneath, so chest and stomach, and then a little bit on the sides, and then the sides also give you the visibility. I don't currently have a dog, you know, none of mine wear larges, and like I said, and I don't really think of myself as having small bird dogs. Oh, baby, you weigh all of them 54 pounds. All right, let's see what Dottie's girth is. So she is weight-wise about the same as Bull, but she's shaped a little differently. It's going to be close. So she's about 27. So her girth, I'm going to say, is 27. That puts us medium. Let's try on a medium Sylmar for you. All right, so this one is sized out at what Bull had. So let's see how she compares to Bull. All right, so this is the same vest that Bull was wearing. I would probably want to tighten it up a little bit, right there. I'm not going to guess, I'm going to follow that girth chart, and there's crossover. Some of it depends on how much coverage you want on the dog. When you go up into the bigger size vests, you're getting more of this coverage up on the top, which, is not as necessary. From a visibility standpoint, I like that. But from a protection standpoint, typically you're not going to get, abrasion issues, on the side of a dog. They're really going to be more on the, on the front, right up in here, and on the chest, area. So let's talk a little bit about heat. You want to be careful when it's really hot. Anytime you're putting anything on the dog that could change their, change their body temperature, especially early season. It gets kind of nasty. The Sylmar vests are really not designed. There's no sort of insulation in here, so it is a pretty cool vest, overall. You just want to watch them, especially if you got a dog that runs hot. All right, this is Dot, and we're putting her back into this is a small. Stand up, baby. Table's slick. All right, I've expanded this one out a little bit. I'm not sure what kind of adjustments I'll have to make for her. I was happy with a medium on her, but now I'm starting to think a small might be a little bit better. So kind of same thing there. If you're on the line, then it's going to depend on how much coverage you want on the top. So now we've gone back to a small, and that's a pretty tight fit. Now I've got plenty of room. If I want it a little bit looser than that, and if I see her running and I feel like she needs a little bit more, I can easily dial it down just a little bit there. But that's a good fit on her too. So I'm happy with both. So there's a little bit of flexibility in there. So once again, her girth is 27, which puts her at the top end of a small and the bottom end of a medium. Both vests fit her. I'm happy with both. I had more coverage on the top with a medium compared to a small, but I've still got a lot of flexibility in this small, and so I'm pretty happy with that. And once again, your Sylmar vests have a lot of adjustment. We give you plenty of room here. Now on this vest, going back to it, if this is what I decide to go with, I'm going to want to cut these down. And so you simply just take a pair of scissors, cut it where you want to, leave yourself a couple of inches there, but you can cut that and then just burn it with a lighter so it won't fray. And there you go. So that's how I put a Sylmar vest on a bird dog. This is Tilly. Tilly is also an English pointer, but a good bit of a smaller dog. Not only is she smaller in weight, she's about 30 pounds, but she's a much smaller bone dog. She's going to fall in the 23 to 24. Extra small. Okay, so same thing here. I don't think of Tilly as being an extra small dog, but with a 22, 23 inch girth, 23 and a half, so that puts her on the top end of an extra small. So let's get one of those and see what it looks like. Okay, so I like just straight out of the bag. I'm pretty happy with that and that. This is a little tight, so let's loosen this up just a bit. So you have a lot of an ability to adjust sizing here. I've totally changed the position, the way the snap sits on there, and just getting it to what I'm looking for. But that way we've got good coverage. I'm looking for protection. With this particular dog, I'm looking for chest protection as much as anything. Tilly is notorious for running through barbed wire fences faster than anybody. If she's going to get torn, it's going to be on their chest there. So that's why she wears a vest. We have two different smalls. So we have an extra small and an extra small short, which the extra small short is just not quite as long. But one of the differences in them is that on the bigger vests, we have 1 inch straps, and then on the smaller vests, we have a smaller strap. So on the smaller vest, you've got a little bit smaller strap. So just dealing with typically just a smaller size dog. So there you go. Tilly's not, I'm not like that. So what is he doing? Got a girl. So the small, you'll see, has the larger straps. So one more time, sweetheart. A lot of variation between a small and an extra small. But let's tighten this sucker up and patient. All right, so, and that fits, and I've got, I've got really good coverage. But if you'll take a close look here, and I don't know how well you can see it, but I had to tighten this up. That's as tight as this vest will go. In an extra small, I've got a lot more strap to work with. All right, so as you can see, and I did this pretty much on all three of them, I've got a little bit tighter than I can go, but not much. I mean, that's about as tight as you can get a small vest. So I can get away with this, you know, and I would be okay with that. But it's not where she fits girth-wise, and so not exactly what I'm looking for.